time to take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. And I have with me the CEO of CKN News, Chris Kende-Nwandu, with us in the studio, as well as chartered accountant and public affairs analyst, Sheson Okwade. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
And thank God it's Friday.
Thank God it's Friday.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, let's begin with Daily Times newspaper now. Daily Times says, outrage over alleged violation of rights in crackdown on protests. Outrage over alleged violation of rights in crackdown on protests. Okay, from there, let's go to the Leadership Friday or Friday Leadership. Don't give forex for food fertilizer. PMB orders the CBN, that's the President Muhammadu Buhari, says that we averted food crisis amid COVID-19 pandemic, approves 8.9 billion naira hazard allowance for health workers, and there are other multiple riders there. From there, let's go to Daily Trust newspaper. This will interest Nigerians. Nigerians groan as food prices rise. Nigerians groan as food prices rise. We can't afford 3 meals a day. Citizens are saying this. The prices of food coming down. The Agri Minister is seeing it from another perspective. We won't give a cover for food fertilizer importation, as the President Buhari is saying this. And I think this topic will interest my guests as well as Nigerians out there when we open the discussion shortly. There, let's go to Business Day. Business Day says Nigeria's low yields position equities as credible alternative. Oyema is saying this. Nigeria's low yield position equities as credible alternative. Says that the demutualization of NCE in final stage. That's making progress in different areas there. That's Business Day. From there, let's go to National Economy. National Economy says President Muhammadu Buhari seeks African Development Bank support to close Nigeria's infrastructure gap. Okay. Infrastructure. All right, that's the National Economy. From there, let's go to News Direct. And it's talking about deregulation. Nigeria to save 1 trillion naira annually. The federal government is projecting this to create massive jobs, okay, from deregulation and the takeaway of subsidies. Okay, from there, let's go to the Blueprint newspaper, which is the last one we're looking at right now. Blueprint says, despite COVID-19, we've averted food crisis. President Buhari is quoted as saying this. Order CBN aid against funding food, fertilizer imports, and commodity prices coming down in spite of recent upsurge. Gambari is saying that. And will prioritize resource allocation to youth development. The Senate is saying this. Okay. All of those are still plans underway, plans one way or the other. All right, gentlemen, let's look at the story on the front page of the Daily Trust, which says Nigerians groan as food prices rise. Rice now, which is the staple food, a bag of 50 kg rice, foreign rice is between 27 and 28,000 in some cases. Or in fact, we hear sometimes in some places it's 29,000. And then the local rice is between 21, 22, 24, and 25,000. CK, let me start with you on this one. Nigerians, there was a report recently that food insecurity, especially in Lagos, Kano, Rivers, and Abuja. And this is really causing concern here and there. What are you seeing from your crystal balls?
Mike, first and foremost, I didn't know you're a good cook.
Relatively, I cook.
For you to know the prices of rice, tomatoes, and pepper, and as well as chicken. Yeah, I really commend you for that.
I'm learning fast.
Yes, but seriously, it's a known fact that prices of goods and services, and especially food items, have gone up. I'm so surprised by the take of the agriculture minister, and also from what I saw from the chief of staff to the president, saying that prices of food items have gone down. I don't know the market that the agriculture minister goes to. He does. I don't even think he goes to market. Probably he's just based on whatever his staff in the ministry are telling you, but that is not what is on ground. As you rightly mentioned, the prices of rice have gone up, garri has gone up, beans have gone up, maize, name it, even bread, okay? And all the staple foods, everything is rising. In fact, within the last 1 week or two, increase in the electricity and also petrol prices, everything has skyrocketed. And that is what we've always said, because once there's a rise, increase in any aspect of that value chain, then it affects every other thing. Yes, and that is what is happening. So electricity is over 100% now, and why why the salaries of workers have not been increased. People are retrenched. We're just coming gradually out of a pandemic that lasted over 6 months, and income of Nigerians have practically dimmed. Now the prices of goods and services are going. So that is and that is a problem. And coupled with the problem we're having across Nigeria, and I just as rightly said, there's flood everywhere. In fact, some few weeks back, some of the state government cried out that we might not be able to meet the demand in terms of our yields from agriculture. So that in itself, it is a time like this that we should be looking at those palliatives, so-called palliative that federal government have been promising Nigerians to see. And we're also talking of subsidy. So if you are removing subsidy from petroleum, why don't you take it to where it meets the people, which is the food? Those are areas we should be looking at. Those are areas government should be looking at. But with what the agricultural minister is saying, they are the ones that will give the president the wrong information, and the president will believe that everything is good and it's all well and good, which is not the reality on ground.
Okay. Sheson, the point there is officially Nigeria has devalued the naira from what it used to be, and it's about between almost 400 naira and maybe above. On the parallel market is above 400 naira now. And all of that. Yeah, exactly, 460, 470, and so on. Now, how central is that to the way prices of things are? Because we're talking about the power of the naira here.
Yeah, Mike, as we speak, the purchasing power of everybody in this country is not just nosediving, but it's gradually getting to zero. You see, the main provider of the funds themselves, like we hear from the federal government, are broke. And that's why they decide to push all pressure on we Nigerians. So you imagine if the man that provides the food at home does not have money, definitely everybody in that area will do. And it's part of what we've been saying before now, that there are several loopholes in this government which we are not looking at. And for the minister to be coming out to tell us that the price of foods are coming down and it's not expensive, the fact remains that majority of them don't go to. They are not like you that know the price of some of those things. They hardly go to the market, and even when they go to the market, those things are made available for them at the expense of the citizen. So it's because we hardly prepare for hard time. In the time of boom, what we discover and what we see is most of our politicians get this money and we take it to overseas, to lodge, and develop those companies. We don't even invest in this country for us to produce things to sustain us. The value of this currency will continue to go down, because if you are a consuming nation, there is nothing you have to exchange for your currency to appreciate. All you need to do is, all the time you are looking up to that person, I'll give you this. It is only in this part of the world you see raw materials that you are supposed to process, that in those stages of processing, some of those byproducts that you get at every point in time are values that will contribute to the growth of it. Look at it. We, at a time, we produce cocoa, but we don't manufacture chocolates and all those things. And just yesterday, I was reading that Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire now take a lead. Look at Niger, not too far from us, having their refinery, and we have the crude oil. So in a nutshell...
And we're importing refined oil from there.
From there. So
Niger
in
Republic.
A nutshell, if we continue to be a consuming nation, nothing will happen but to impoverish our people the more, because it is when you have something to exchange, that is when you can have your currency appreciated. But if all you look at is consuming, and consuming, not producing anything for exchange, I expect that by now our government should use their ends to cover their face, that ordinary Niger, just close to us here, that will all complain. You know, the last time somebody said Ghana is not up to Lagos. And if those people have as much as 7 refineries to process what they have, so they will come to you for raw materials, they will process it, use the byproduct to develop their site, and you will only be taking the finished product, which is really, so the government should think and look inward to make sure that what we have been saying all the time, people will call me infrastructural development manager. I say yes, because if there are no infrastructure, nothing. Infrastructure is, one of them is our refinery. One of them is having stable electricity. All these so-called substations that are out of it, we should just work on them. Once you have the right infrastructure in place, and you're able to push those things to be productive, definitely our currency will appreciate, and we're able to compete with other nations.
All right. CKN, the point there is, well, we often make reference to the 70s and 80s when the Naira was at par with the dollar, and when, you know, all of those, the good old days that Nigerians often talk about. And that time, there were so many companies in this country manufacturing from every sector. In fact, there was car assembly plants all over and all of that. How do we get back to that, or even improve on that, or how challenging or how far away from there are we?
It's not rockets. The problem we have is problem of leadership. That has always been the problem.
It's just leadership.
Leadership, because those you are talking about in the 70s were people that had foresight, people that know how to go, what to do, creativity on their part, and we also had issues. Immediately we had the oil boom. Don't forget, it was in this country that a former military leader said that our problem is not money, Mike. Our problem wasn't money. That's according to him. It's how to spend it. So that is where our...
And that was the same time Dubai was being conceived.
That exactly. Exactly. Then look at Dubai today. Okay? So all those things, the fact is that our leaders are so lazy, so docile, and we are not getting the right set of people to be able to. So that is it. But we can get back to that if we be able to do the right thing, and we can get ourselves out of the current problem
so
we have.
Leadership number one.
Leadership is number one.
When you have leadership and then the infrastructure.
Every other thing key.
All right.
So let's look at some of the headlines on the papers now. We have the Daily Times, and the headline says, outrage over alleged violation of rights in crackdown on protest. And that's for the Daily Times. Away now to leadership. From the leadership, we have, don't give forex for food fertilizer, PMB orders CBN. That's talking about the importation of food and President Buhari's reaction to that. We have next the Daily Trust. And the front page of the Daily Trust, it says Nigerians groan as food prices rise. That's coming from the Daily Trust. And away from the Daily Trust, we have the Business Day newspaper. And on the front page of the Business Day, we have Nigeria's low yields position equities as credible alternative. And that's from Oyema. And away from Business Day, we have the national economy. And the front page of the national economy, it says PMB 6 AFDB support to close Nigeria's infrastructure gap. That's coming from the meeting held between the president of the AFDB and the president of Nigeria yesterday at Aso Villa. And away from that to News Direct, deregulation, Nigeria to save 1 trillion naira annually, and that's from the federal government. And finally, we have the Blueprint newspaper. On the front page of the Blueprint, it says, despite COVID-19, we've averted food crisis. And that's coming from the President, Muhammadu Buhari. And that's all the papers we have this morning. But of special interest is that some of these papers have issues related to food. Some people groaning, Nigerians groaning when it comes to the prices of food. But on the other hand, the federal government is saying that they have averted the crisis, and that's on the front page of the Blueprint. And that's where we want to focus on this morning. And we still have our guest with us here to look at this. Now, the front page of the blueprint says that the federal government is saying that they have been able to avert food crisis in the country, despite COVID-19. But recently, there were reports of food insecurity, that the fact that food security looms in 4 states in the country. I want to react to that, Sheson.
You see, when they say looms, it's like they are expecting it. It's right here with us, because as we speak, most people cannot afford what we have in the market with the prices that they have now. Considering the fact that several people have lost their job, some are on half salary, and everything is actually skyrocketing. You for your electricity, you pay more. For fuel, you pay more. And you know, these two commodity plays a major role, central role, because the fuel you're going to put in the vehicle is the man that is bringing food from the north down here, buy more fuel to get it available on ground. The small foods, the stipends, the staple foods that we have for individuals to eat has actually moved on. As small as bread, the last time I visited to buy the usual bread of 500 is about 650, 700 now. For how many people can even afford that when you don't even have those money? So if government is saying that they are averting food scarcity, I think to the best of my knowledge, it's just like a political statement, because it must be felt. We keep saying it, there is a gap between the government and the people. Because if they are with us, you will know that at the beginning of this year, the price of rice that everyone consumes on daily basis was less than 20,000. And as we speak, it's as close as 30,000. And we say we are averting it. The price of tomatoes and other things are really pretty high now. So if they say they are averted it, we must see it. It's not them telling us. So we need to get back to them and say, yes, we can feel the impact. But as we speak, it is biting hard on every individual. Let me
come to Chris, because we know that there were policies made earlier this year, last year, where the federal government did shut down the border to ensure food sufficiency beyond just, smuggling of petrol. And they were also looking at, ensuring that we have food sufficiency in the country. But we've had COVID-19. I've also seen floods, farmlands submerged in floods. So is there something that we could have done, or government could have done, to avert this food crisis, as it were?
Yes. It beats my imagination when I see government agencies or our leaders passing off information that, when you look on ground, is inaccurate. As Sheson rightly said, if we said we've averted food crisis, how has that impacted on the people? How has that impacted on the prices of food items in the market? If you say we've averted it, yes, we are looking at probably that we're going to have a shortfall because of the crisis and the rest of them. But most of the staple foods are things that we produce in Nigeria. We are not importing. Yes, you rightly said we've closed the borders to avert some of. One of the reasons why the borders were closed was because our petroleum products were being moved outside. And also certain goods and services that are not supposed to come into Nigeria are coming in. But the reality on ground is that Nigerians are still very hungry.
But didn't that help though? Because many people will feel that, look, it could have been worse if we did not close the border, that also enabled food sufficiency.
My dear, I will tell you for free that most of these things don't come from the conventional borders. Nigeria we have one of the most porous borders across the globe. If you close the one at Seme, close the one in Sokoto, close the one in Katsina and the rest of them, there are still other places where people things are coming in. I'm telling you for free, things are coming in. So that the one you close, the major one where you see the custom manning, does not necessarily mean that these are still coming in on a daily basis. Trucks are leaving Nigerians on a daily basis to most of these other countries. The same thing is coming. So yes, conventionally, yes, we'll be able to do that. But when you look at it from the go to the shops, go to most of these shops, you see most of these foreign things on the shelves. How do they come in? They are smuggled in. But my take is that we are even doing more damages to Nigerians than if you say you will be able to curtail the issue of food crisis. What of the additional things that we're adding on Nigerians, like the prices of fuel,
That's
prices of
where-
electricity,
that's why-
and
that's
rest
why I
of
want to
them.
come
That
to
in itself
Sheson.
is biting hard.
That's why I want to come to Sheson, because now people are asking for palliatives. The government must do something, maybe in the area of transportation, maybe in the area of health, as palliative. But are palliatives enough? Because how long can we sustain on palliatives?
You see, we are full of deceit when it comes to this country. Even during pandemic, that people need palliative. We heard of government telling us that so many schools, children are being fed. I don't know if anyone very close to you were actually carried out. Now, we are more impoverished than even while we are in that pandemic, because for every person, maybe you have some savings with you that could carry you through the COVID period. But you discover that the last 5 months, people were unable to do any business to actually
people are out
cater
of jobs
to
as well.
add to what you have. And you discover that that which you had as savings before now have actually been expended. And now you have to struggle to get more, of which the resultant that we got from the government is increase in electricity tariff and the price. So what we are telling the government is that we need palliative, but that thing is not even there. If we must have, we have appealed to them. The cost of governance in this country, it's enough. I think at this point we should see where our legislative and executive arm of the government, we voluntarily tell us that for the next so much months, we are actually giving our salary to, because when you hear what our legislators have as their take home, it's enough to take care of some constituencies. And this should be what we should be getting as we speak. Not them coming on air or coming on board to tell us that they are increasing this and we must just absorb it. People are suffering and depression is coming on daily basis and people are dying. They should be sensitive and let's just have a way forward.
All right. It's a lot of conversation to have, but time doesn't permit us. Sheson Okwande, thanks for talking to us, as well as Chris Wando, thanks for talking to us.
Thanks for having us.